Sports Walk is back. Watch Season 2 of Backpack Broadcasting's original web series that brings you the opinions of real sports fans. The entire first season and current season are available now on the Sports Walk YouTube channel and Facebook page. Check out the 2017 NYC WebFest official selection and see what other sports fans have to say on the hottest issues in sports today. It's easy. Just take the Sports Walk.
Hi, this is Howard Beck from Bleacher Report. You are watching the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast.
Episode number 45 of the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. We are back in the building. We is Dexter Henry, Brian Fonseca, and we have another guest. He's a man who wears many hats. He represents the Bronx, New York. His name is Rob Lopez. He is the sports editor for Def Pen, also a social media associate for FanDuel, and a producer for Count the Dings. Rob, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I think you are our first guest representing the Bronx. I believe that you are.
That's unfortunate.
That's
but,
unfortunate.
I'm
to
happy
45
to,
shows to get somebody representing.
Yeah,
that can't
there's only
be right.
5 boroughs, so I don't know what you guys are doing.
Well, I don't think we've had anybody from Staten Island yet.
All right, well, I wouldn't blame you for that.
Ooh, and all the Staten
I mean,
Island people listen to this podcast are
I
now
would
offended.
like to talk to Raekwon, but
Who doesn't like the chef?
No,
yeah.
me. I don't like the chef.
What?
No, I don't like the chef.
You don't like Raekwon?
No,
Really?
no, I'm joking.
Oh, I'm like, I mean, I know you had some issues with Cuban Links too, but I'm like, yo,
Yeah, I don't think it's particularly
putting
good.
that out there.
But I don't dislike Raekwon at all. I just wanted to make you guys mad. I want to see if y'all were gonna come at me.
I have a hard copy of that album.
Of course you do. You know what year you bought it. You know exactly where it is in your house.
2009. It is
See,
right next to
guys,
my
this is what he does.
PlayStation.
And now he's going to go down this rabbit hole, and poor people who love you have to deal with this, unfortunately.
Nobody loves me.
Yeah, okay. Rob, I'm glad you are doing well. We are glad to have you here. You've obviously done a lot in terms of writing and in the world of social media with sports, entertainment, just kind of everything.
I told Dexter the best person at social media that I know. I actually told you that at Media Day.
Yeah, which I appreciate.
Yeah, how do you feel about that title? It's kind of like a lot of pressure from Brian.
You know, like for me, like I never intended to have this path. So like long story short, myself, when I was a kid, born in Brooklyn. When I was really young, we moved to Pennsylvania.
That was for Brooklyn, not for Pennsylvania.
Moved to Pennsylvania, went to grade school, high school, college through there. But I remember when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, I would watch SportsCenter, and I would see Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith, like when he died, I cried. I remember that morning.
Wait,
it was
Stuart
like
Scott?
Stuart Scott.
Yeah.
Oh my
I was like,
God.
yo, Stephen A. still living.
I was listening
like,
to
wait.
Stephen A. Smith. When Stuart Scott died, I cried. Because you were just talking about
All
Stephen A.
black
Smith.
people do not look alike.
It's Brian's fault. It's not my fault. I swear to you. Stuart Scott. When Stuart Scott died, yes, I know
Rest
who
in
Stuart
peace.
Scott
I was
is.
watching
For
Stephen A. Smith
everybody,
when I was
for
12,
everybody
13.
who's looking at me crooked right now.
Yes.
Stuart Scott, I know who he is. He, the eye with the football. I remember. I know who Stuart Scott is. When he died, I cried. Because when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, I remember, like, when I was younger, I would watch cartoons, but Saturday mornings, I would always watch, because you know how SportsCenter always re-airs, 10, 11, 12.
After Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, you watch sports.
Well, it would be the same SportsCenter, so what I would
What,
do
Dex?
was...
What?
He's wearing a Pokemon shirt right now.
And a hat. And a hat.
So when I was a
Could
kid...
you get any more childish?
Of
When,
the same one, too. Shout out to Evie.
When I was a kid, I remember just like watching the Sports Center and seeing what's going on, kind of memorizing the rundown, so to speak, and the next hour putting it on mute and doing my own like broadcast, like throughout the thing. He's rumbling and stumbling down. I loved it. I loved it. So I high school, was 2-time editor of the newspaper, editor-in-chief, all that stuff. Then I went to college, a small school in the Poconos, and I went there originally for like broadcast journalism and stuff. So for me, I was looking to work for ESPN. I wanted to work for ESPN or SNY, MSG, whatever.
I had a very similar path.
Yeah, so I was like, I want to do this. But I quickly learned, for me, just because of where I came from and my life experience, is that I didn't know anybody. And I would say half the battle in this media world, in this, even especially sports media, is who you know.
More than half.
and I didn't know anybody. So I decided, I said, you know what? After I graduated at college in 2013, I worked at a restaurant. Shout out to Texas Roadhouse. I worked there for like 2
just
years.
ate there for the first time about a month ago. We'll get to that.
It was a great place. I worked there for 2 years, and even when I moved up here, I worked there for a year at one up in New Rochelle. But yeah, so I did that for 2 years, and I was doing, I was 22, 21, 23. And I was doing the party thing, getting drunk, hanging out with friends,
Hey.
And then one day I woke up and after a night of partying and like my room's a mess, and I opened the door because my kitchen, my room's right next to the kitchen. I opened the door, kitchen's a mess, the living room's a mess, and I'm just looking there. I'm like, damn. I'm like, what am I doing? You know what I mean?
Drinking.
Epiphany.
Like, I just had a moment. I was like, yo,
yeah.
what am I doing?
Yeah.
So, I kind of dove into Twitter a little bit more. This was like 2014. I dove into Twitter a little bit more, trying to get into it because I was big on, not really big on social media, but more in tech. I liked a lot of tech stuff. I'm a big, I like to mess around with a MacBook. I like, I have an Xbox. I do, my iPhone's jailbroken. Don't tell Apple. So I like the technology stuff. And I got into Twitter, and then I kind of, when I was in school, I learned like basic Photoshop, basic video editing. And now all that stuff, 5 years later, all that stuff I learned is so archaic and old that like I kind of just taught myself a lot of the stuff that I do, whether that's video editing, photo editing, podcast producing. I taught myself because I didn't take those classes in college. I was a broadcast journalism dude, and I did sports newspaper stuff. So I kind of just when I kind of got into it a little bit more, I started working with Def Pen in 2014. In the summer of 2014, at the end. My first piece was something about the finals, and then like at the end of the year, that's when I had the little epiphany, and I told Jared, the guy, the dude who owns Def Pen, he's the founder of the site. I told him, I said, look, I'm noticing like nobody wants to do anything for sports. Like nobody's like kind of there's no like lead dude, and I was like, I want to do it, and he's like, you sure? I was like, yeah, I'll move to New York next week. And he's like, "Are you serious?" I was like,
and
"Yeah."
you were living in the Poconos.
I was living in the Poconos
most
with
of the
like
time.
4 room. I had it was a 5-bedroom house. Like we had the party house. So like if you're picturing like, for example, like a busy street, for us a busy street is like a couple bars and
I know what it's
pizza
like
shop.
out there. So yes,
Yeah,
I know.
so-
you went to Pitt.
But
That's right.
but
I used
yeah,
to date
like,
somebody who lived in the Poconos. So yeah,
so like in
Shout out
Stroudsburg
to
where
her.
I live.
Stroudsburg. That's where
so
she was.
I live
East
right off.
Stroudsburg.
Yeah, I live right off Main Street.
Main
there.
Street. So I know.
I
know
live
who you are.
literally the
Yeah.
KFC. I live right next to it.
I
So
see.
I was right at the bottom of the street there.
Worlds connect, man. Worlds connect.
Yeah.
So, but like,
I can see that.
I'm glad you know.
So I understand the
that
landscape.
main street
Yeah.
is bars. It's just like
Yeah.
bars all up and down, and we would be the pregame house, postgame house, and just every night, like Tuesday night, we'd be done with work and be like, all right, what are we doing? All right, let's go get drunk. Just because it's Tuesday, it's wing night. Let's go get drunk. We find any excuse to do it. And I was just like, damn, I'm wasting, $40,000 in school debt, and like I'm just serving at a restaurant. Like, no offense to anybody who wants to do that as their career,
Right.
but for me, I was like, I felt like I wasted my time. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, screw it, I'm gonna do this. So I told him in like the start of December, at January, like the first week of January, I packed up all my stuff and I moved to New York. And I live in the Bronx now, and I live with my grandma, but she's never there really. She goes to Puerto Rico a lot, so I'm kind of by myself a lot. But shout out to her. She took me in. She said, yeah, whatever you need. And since then, I've kind of just been trying to make my own path.
So you kind of jumped at that opportunity and just said, "Hey, I'm going to that." And I think one of the interesting things that you said is, and Brian and I talk about this also when we had Kenny Ducey up here on the show. We spoke to him about that. Who's social media?
Shout out to Kenny.
Shout out to Kenny now with SNY. Congrats on the new gig. Look, I could say 10 years ago. We talk about 5 years ago. You weren't seeing a lot of these positions. You weren't seeing a lot of guys like you, even though you write, but also like what you do with FanDuel and other places in terms of knowing how to work social media, how to put content out there, how
Right.
to make it work. It's a skill I think people need to recognize
Right.
that people like yourself, like Kenny, have acquired. How did you learn all you needed to learn about, hey, this is how I make this thing move in the social
Right.
media space, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, the algorithms, everything involved in that?
Right.
You had a certain training from school that didn't really teach that. How did you end up incorporating that?
In school, when I went to school, social media at the time, and this is, 2011, 12, social media at the time was just Facebook mostly. You know what I mean? A little bit of Twitter, a little bit, Instagram was early, Snapchat kind of just started, but people didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like in that social media space to where now like you're getting advertisements in Instagram stories, which is a concept that like if you said that 4 years ago, I would have been like, what's an Instagram story? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think like for me, and I know Kenny too, because I've talked to Kenny a couple times about some stuff, because like, you know, we're kind of, you know, us, even Brian included, even you, and like we're all kind of this younger generation of people who we're kind of learning from each other. In the sense where
That's
like
very true.
I'm seeing what Kenny's doing, for example, what he did with Sports Illustrated, and I'm saying, oh, that's dope. I kind of want to do something like that, and I go ahead and I just take some ideas from other people, but also too, it's kind of just like studying what's trending on the specific social medias and how they operate. So if you break it down, each one, and I don't want to go into a big thing about it, but like, for example, for Twitter, if you're writing an article, a long form piece, and you want to do something on a player, say you're interviewing Kristaps Porzingis, right? You don't want to run that story at midnight. You want to run that story at 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Because you got to think as a person who wants to read this content, and you want to think, all right, cool. Joe Schmo, 9 to 5, you know, works in some office building in Manhattan. He wants to, you know, read about Kristaps. When is his lunch break? 11 o'clock.
Exactly.
When is he getting into work? 9 o'clock. You know, when are they like, all right, screw this, I don't want to do this anymore? 10:30 when they've already
Probably
been
9 o'clock, but yeah.
But I mean, you know, check their emails, talk to their boss, blah 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 blah, and then now it's like 10:30. He's like, all right, now I gotta wait, and now they want to check the stuff out. So I think a lot of that is just me kind of just assessing the scenario, and also seeing like the analytics of like how we operate as far as, and I mean, our Twitter and Instagram, I mean, we're not the hugest, you know, we 16,000 on Twitter. Like 31,000 on Instagram, 100,000 on Facebook. But like taking those analytics, even those small portions, and seeing, all right, let's try this out. Let's try to run something at 1 p.m. Let's try to do something at 12. You know, does a live video work as opposed to a edited video? Like what happens? What works best?
Right.
And a lot of that stuff I kind of taught myself, and also I looked, you know, a simple Google search. All right, Instagram analytics,
Best time
Instagram
to
algorithm.
post, right.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people, they're people that are social media experts. I mean, I don't know how you can be an expert in something that kind of you make up yourself, but I guess whatever. You know, the results show for them. You know, well, I mean, some of the results are
real,
good.
Though. Yeah.
We established off air that this can get spicy.
But
Not
no,
between us, just
I
to be
mean,
clear.
a lot of it's just kind of like seeing what other people are doing and learning. And I was talking to Brian about this the other day. A lot of social media, honestly, like 100,000%, I believe this so much, is just paying attention. Just being on your phone.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as you don't want to be on your phone, and like even now, right now, I'm like kind of like, oh my God, I want to see what's going on, because I feel like Jimmy Butler's going to get traded any minute. But like at the same time, I'm kind of like,
I'm just checking to make sure.
at the same time, it's like, you know, you have to pay attention and see what's trending, see what's going on, and you also have to be a part of the culture, so to speak, and like know what's going on. You know what I mean? You have to know Lil Wayne just dropped an album last night. Logic just dropped an album last night. You have to know who's trending, who's popular.
What's the reason?
No, I had a
private.
conversation with somebody today in media who potentially could be having a meeting with a Lil Wayne, but they were not aware that the person had dropped the album last night. It was funny between both of us that they saw, but how they found out was funny, oddly enough, through social media.
Right.
And they were like, well, why is it, you know, what's happening? Why is Lil Wayne trending? And I was like, oh, yeah, didn't understand the Carter 5. It just dropped.
And the thing with Lil
Right.
Wayne dropping that, and I mean, we can talk about this too, because I'm sure you guys talk about.
We talk about hip-hop?
Hip-hop all the
Yeah.
time.
You know.
Lil Wayne, for me, and I said this previously on one of the podcasts where a producer counted dings called Woke Bros with my boy Big Waz. Shout out to Big Waz.
Woke Bros, like the name.
Yeah, it's an interesting podcast. They get into politics, they get into not sports really, but music, politics, all that type of stuff. You
Shout
know,
out to them.
geopolitical stuff. It's really interesting. But yeah, I was talking to him, and I said, you know, Lil Wayne from 2007 to basically when he got locked up, 2010, he was the biggest artist in the world.
Yeah.
Not hip hop, not rap, not, you know, in the world.
He transcended that.
In the world.
Yeah.
Like he was the first, I feel, of this, like he was the flagpole for this generation and said, I'm the leader for this generation. And then out of that came like Drake, Travis Scott, all these guys that are coming out now. But Lil Wayne was the first one that went super, super mainstream in the social media digital era.
Yeah.
Where he transcended not only hip hop, not only rap, but he just went off. And like, you know, from 2007 to 2010, he was the biggest guy in the world. Went to jail, came out, had some iffy albums and stuff coming out of there. But I mean, he just announced his album on Monday that he was dropping it.
Yep.
And it's Friday. He has the #1 album on iTunes right now. It's social media. It's not. He did a video on YouTube. It's not. What? You don't have to do the traditional. Let's go on Hot 97. Let's go on Power 106. Let's do all these media tours. All he did was drop a YouTube video, got the buzz for 4 days, 5 days. Album's out. Here he is.
And we're starting to see a lot of that now because I know Dexter really likes this. When artists just J. Cole did this Monday. Oh, the album's coming out Friday.
Right.
Kendrick Lamar did the same thing. He put out like
Beyonce
a track
does
list,
it. Beyonce
cover
just
album.
I'm dropping this album on a Saturday night.
Yeah, I love it. I love stuff
some
like
artists do it the day of. Now I'm not going to mention any names because then Dexter's going to say something.
But
but some artists do it.
he's trying to think. He has the face like he's trying to think of who you're talking
No,
about.
he knows exactly who
I was thinking about who he's talking about, but now I know who he's talking about. It's who Brian always talks about.
That's not true.
Yeah, okay.
It's very true.
Yeah, we could add some people in this room if that's true. Anyway, no, Brian.
But yeah, like he, released a trailer. Like, yeah, a lot of guys do that now where they're just coming out with stuff because of social media,
right?
And they don't have to do, I guess you would say, the car wash, where it's like
traditional stuff.
Yeah, like they might do it after the album drops. They might do it just because, but they don't necessarily need the press because in a lot of ways you're your own publicist.
Exactly.
And I think that's been dope. So what has it been like for you writing for Def Pen as a sports editor, because you kind of took this jump, which I always like to hear people do in their career. Right. You took a jump, you said, hey, here's an opportunity, I'm going to jump and do this, and you did that. Now you're writing, you're covering sports here in the New York area. What has that been like for you as a young writer?
Man, it's weird because I won't say that I personally won't say I'm the best at anything, and I listen to a lot of, I guess like Gary Vee on Instagram, for example. I listen to a lot of the stuff he talks about, and I listen to a lot of stuff like other people like who are really good at their field. It might sound really dumb, but Ninja, Ninja, Fortnite, professional Fortnite player. He likes to say, people say he's the best, and he says, I don't want to be the best because then that means I have nowhere to grow. So when people tell me like, hey, you're good at social media, or hey, you're a good writer, or hey, you're good at this, I'm like, I'm not content with it, because the way I see it, I want to be content when I'm retired. You know what I mean? Like as I'm working right now, and I just put out, I made a video this morning. Joel Embiid's playing the piano. And I saw that. I put it on the end of Hey Ma when Cameron does the piano thing. And just put Joel Embiid on there, and it blew up. It got like 300 retweets in like an hour or whatever.
See, I want to stop you right there, because I'm always, whenever I see people do something like you just did, like you talked about putting Joel Embiid at the end of Hey Ma,
right.
Which is, I didn't even see it, but I'm like, I see it, right?
Right, because the camera on the
and I'm like, how do you think of that? I'm always impressed with people's mind when they go to these places to do things with videos that we see on social media. I'm like, yo, how did you think of that, man? Like, it's
not always, because some other people just steal, but we ain't gotta get
that too. That's
true.
That's a big thing.
But
like,
that was
I wouldn't even say some. I would say a lot.
You had to think of how specifically something works with something else that you know, and mix something with sports, and then like a song, a pop culture.
There's
song.
a new one with Key and Peele.
That one, it's dead already. It's already dead.
Have you seen those?
Have you seen the
it is dead,
the sketch where is it Peele? Peele's the president? Which one? I forget which one it is.
Shit.
Keegan-Michael, the dude who made Get Out. It's Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
He's playing Obama. And at the end of it, the famous clip of Obama like shaking the hands and like shake hands with the white guy and daps up the black dude. They basically like did that over, but like Jordan Peele goes through, shakes hands, and does the same thing. But now people on social media are doing it. Knicks fans and shaking hands with Steve Mills, but dapping up Chris Stapps. But it's the same people are doing with the Jets and the Mets, and it's going through. And I'm just like, you guys killed a meme in 24 hours.
Yeah,
24 hours.
Tired. But people come up with these creative stuff. I just find, like, even when you did, I think it's impressive. How do you? What's your thought process behind things like this?
For me, honestly, it's kind of just like I said before, just being a part of like what's going on in the culture, and also kind of just like trying stuff. And I was thinking about it too, because I saw Joel Embiid post a video on Instagram and a story the other day of him playing the piano, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, there has to be a song where somebody's playing the piano, and I was thinking.
How long did you think for?
I thought for like an hour. I posted this on probably like Sunday or Monday night, I forget, one of the 2 days. And I thought about it for like an hour, and I was like, all right, I don't have anything. So then this morning I woke up and I just put Spotify, I just put it on shuffle.
Huh.
Like one of the first songs that came up was Hey Ma. And I love Dipset. I love the Diplomats.
Yeah. We've had that discussion
Joel's. I met Joel's last year. He's awesome. He's fantastic. And I just listen to the end, and I just hear the. I'm like, hold up.
Yo.
I'm like, wait. So I went on my phone and I looked at the tweet I sent from him. Like, I just sent some weird tweet from, Joel got, because he was playing the piano. It was horrible. It was like, dun, 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 dun. It was atrocious. But the way it matched up, like if you see the video, it matches perfectly to where he goes, dun, 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 and it's perfect. But the thing is like sometimes it just happens, boom, like that. And last
probably
night,
do the best.
Yeah, I mean, last night, for example, YG was at the LA Rams game. And all I sent a tweet out on the Def Pen Sports account that was, the guy screaming, and it says, "Stay dangerous." YG celebrates with Robert Woods, and that just blew up, and it got like 20 retweets in a minute. And it's just like, you got to be cognizant of what's going on and what people are talking about, and what who this dude is, because not every Joe Schmo on the street knows who YG is,
right?
Or knows what Stay Dangerous is, or knows why this isn't important, because he's from he's from the LA area, he's from Compton. That's why it's why he's there celebrating, going crazy. A lot of it, like I keep saying, is just paying attention and just knowing what's going on, what's trending. You don't have to be like on top of the trending topics all the time. But my creative process is honestly just like, hey, this might look cool, let's try it. Sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. And I mean, there's no exact science behind it. I'm just not afraid. I'm just not afraid to try and fail. You know what I mean? Because if you're afraid to try and if you're afraid to fail, then you're never going to succeed. So you gotta just try. And if it fails, it fails. If it works, it works. And so far, I mean, for me, it's been working. And I'm happy. My progress so far.
Yeah, and I think one of the best things with that is like with social media, with podcasting, these are these new phenomenons.
Right.
So you can
it's uncharted ground.
You can create as you go. You can just kind of figure it out as you go, and whatever's going to work is going to work. You know what I mean? Like we were talking about this on Monday, and just really creating your own path. But a lot of, because the big corporations and networks, so to speak, they haven't gotten control of it yet.
Right.
And we feel like, what's going to happen when that time comes, then we're just going to create another avenue.
And to that point, you see a lot of companies now that are starting to get into like, the meme tweet game, and it's corny because it's so pushed. It's so you can see it's forced.
You can tell.
And there's a specific, sports network that's the worldwide leader in sports, they say, that's really trying to do that. And a lot of the times it's really corny. And it's not sincere in the sense of like,
But here's the thing, though.
What's your brand? Stick to your brand. You know what I mean?
Or
like,
do you think
it
is they don't have people in place? Sorry to cut you off, Brian. People in place that can that know what they're doing with this. That's that are actually into the culture of whatever that might be with this.
I think to the contrary. I think they have some of the best people on it. I think it's just because it's ESPN and nobody like respects them for being like. Let's compare ESPN and Complex. You know what I mean? Like, for example, if you're doing if Complex, they're part of the culture, right? If they do something,
are they?
For those listening, there were air quotes in that last sentence.
But I'm saying in comparison to ESPN, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like Complex is a
right. They're where you're going to go to for
they're
certain.
the alleged worldwide leader of culture.
Right. So if they're doing it, it seems a lot more
loosely Dexter.
It seems a lot more, or even like the Fader. You can do anybody really.
Yeah.
As opposed to like ESPN trying to do it, and they're just they look kind of corny doing it, and it's just every time I see them trying to do something cool, it's just the hey, fellow kids, how you doing? You know what I mean?
You know what the thing is? It's like, and you're right, first of all. And the thing is with places like that, and just also people with a bunch of followers or whatever, and they'll do certain things, and it's going to get traction just because the person is the person or the company is the company. And that's another issue that we have to talk about, I guess, because with social media, there are great tweets that don't pop. I'm sure you've experienced that. There are great social media tweets that don't pop. But if you get to a certain place, it's not going to matter because people are just going to pop regardless.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you're going to get the numbers as soon as you get 1 million followers, and it's not going to matter, and people aren't going to tell you suck because you have so many followers.
It's just the biggest thing is authenticity, I think. It's authenticity.
I agree.
What as ESPN, what are you?
Yeah.
You're not a meme place. You're not a place where, you're doing, funny photoshops or whatever.
Yeah.
You're a place that you're the worldwide leader in sports, so be that.
Yeah.
But if you try to be a cool 13-year-old, 14, 15, 17.
But you know what? If they get somebody that can do it, if ESPN hires you, they can become that.
See, that's my question to that is and Brian brings that up, and it's like, can that happen, right? If you have, or maybe it doesn't matter, and you tell me if it doesn't.
I don't think it does.
Because, well, why? And I want just so listeners are clear, what I'm asking, Rob, is if you get the right person in place, which Brian is saying, if you get the person that you believe that can do this job well.
Right.
We're like, we believe Rob Lopez could do this job well.
Right.
Let's put him in ESPN. He'll really connect with the kids. I'm just trying to think how the old people there are thinking. They're like, yo, we're trying to connect with the kids. Does that matter at all?
No, because at the end of the day, you could hire me, you could hire whoever is the best in social media. At the end of the day, am I posting that from my account or am I posting that from ESPN's account?
You'll be posting from ESPN's account.
Right.
And so what you're saying, at least what I think you're saying, is that people still going to look at the brand and be like, yo,
It's
that's
all
not
about
real.
It's all about brand and authenticity. At the end of the day, who are you? And what are you doing? Because if think about ESPN and like they could do like different stuff where they don't have to create these memes. They could do something where they interview a player and it's an exclusive for social media that will get the same amount of traction as a dumb meme. You know what I mean?
But they want to be cool. They see the kids over.
They want. I mean, they can be cool, but their ratings are showing they're not.
Yeah, the kid. I'm just trying to think the way they're thinking, and it's like
no, and I get it.
We see the kids over here doing this, so let's get a part of that action, right? If we're the worldwide leader in sports, why can't we be the worldwide leader in sports and memes?
Right. I mean, I get where they're coming from, but like at the end of the day.
But your answer I get too. I totally get what you're saying. You're saying it comes back to authenticity.
And I see it. I mean, if you look at the mentions, anytime they make something, people are like, delete, corny, delete, get out of here, delete, get out of here.
That's true.
You want to compare them to let's compare them to Bleacher Report. You know what I mean?
Also.
Bleacher Reports gets into the culture, into the sense of where they have people like YG come and do a special story with Cooper Kupp or whatever. They did just what they do yesterday with Kike Hernandez, where he created a walk-up song. YG did for him for the playoff push.
Well, what do you think that difference is? You just mentioned two different companies. You mentioned Bleacher Report. You mentioned ESPN. What do you think the difference is that where you're saying one might be connecting with a younger audience, or should I say more diverse audience in sports, whereas another more established company might not necessarily be doing that? Why do you think that's happening?
I think a lot of it's perception. I think a lot of perception is reality. So it's like the same thing. If somebody's out here and they're on their Instagram or whatever posting pictures from Santorini, Greece, right? And they're posting all these pictures, oh, look at my vacation, whatever. And meanwhile, they're just sitting on their couch and they took those pictures like last week. You know what I'm saying? Like perception.
Or they paid one of those companies that can do it for you. You know how that goes.
Yeah. A lot of his perception. So like when Bleacher's relatively new. I mean, they're like 10 years in, 15, something like that. ESPN's been around since the 70s.
And it wasn't that long ago that Bleacher Report's content was just lists over and over and over.
It was just a content farm.
They've evolved since that.
And I think a lot of it's perception in the sense of like we're looking at ESPN. That's the old guard. When I'm talking to my friends about a story, they're like, "Oh yeah, I just checked out the story on ESPN about blah 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 blah."
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if you go to Bleacher, you see all the videos they create, the content they create, and it's dope. And it's because they know that their demographic or their audience is more of a newer generation, and they want that from this company as opposed to a company like ESPN in the sense where they're just, they're the old guard and they're the best at what they do, which is breaking news, reporting news, doing the stories. Stick to that. You don't have to go and be like, hey, come on, kid, let's all hang out. Like, you don't have to.
Just be you.
Be great at what you're doing. And it's you don't have to dive into different things and say, hey, let's be a part of the culture and let's do this and that. It's dumb. It's just, for me, it's dumb. I don't see a benefit in it. And I mean, I understand, this is what the people with money are saying to do. But in the same sense, it's like, your company, you want it to be as authentic as possible, I believe. And you want to portray that as much as you can. If you're in something, it's Ron Swanson. If anybody's watched Parks and Rec, he says, why half-ass 10 things when you can whole-ass 2 things?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why do you have to, try to get, with the kids and also break stories and also do this and also do that, when you can just be really good at one thing and just kill it?
But I think it goes back to what we were saying before. They're just trying to figure out social media.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's
For
maybe
sure.
what it is.
For sure.
Because we're all
they're
really
trying to catch up.
Yeah,
They're behind because they rested on their TV laurels too much. And now they're like, oh, damn, we're losing viewers, we're losing ratings because everybody's just getting their news on social media now.
Yeah. No, that's very true.
That's a good.
I mean,
that's a
if
good point,
it's like that for ESPN, then imagine some of these other places that are
Right.
doing the exact same thing that they're doing, even with a big budget like
Right.
Fox.
Right.
right,
Exactly.
and they're even more behind. What do you? Obviously, you're into social media, but what do you think of the impact of social media in what you've seen in the last couple of years? There's certain ways you look at it. Obviously, you just mentioned it's a place where we get our news, but sometimes there's a lot of things we see within social media that might not be
Toxic.
that great. It might, yeah,
A lot of
toxic's
it's-
a good word.
yeah,
A good
a lot of
word.
it's-
What do you see that's toxic?
Well, I mean, a lot of it, I guess, the bullying culture, the sense of trying to roast somebody on social media, all that type of stuff. To me, I mean, I'm about to be 27 next week, and I think it's corny, but I'm a grown man, as opposed to like a 15-year-old kid with a picture of Ben Simmons as his Twitter picture, just making a joke about whoever. A lot of it's toxic because they're all gang up on one person and just pick on them to no end, to the point where they can't use their phone. You know what I mean? I know people who have gone through that because of specific outlets that have made it a point to harass this person. Harassment is really bad on social media. I mean, Ariana Grande, for example, when Mac Miller died,
Yeah.
people were in her comments blaming her for his death.
Yeah,
And,
we
like,
spoke about that.
What? That
And
doesn't make no sense, man.
The worst part about that is too is that you knew that was going to happen.
Of
also.
course, because
Like,
of
you
how
saw it
social
coming.
media is.
And it's just so easy for people to. It's so easy to do, right? You send out a tweet, boom.
Right.
And you're tagging the other person and you're insulting them or whatever it is.
Right.
It's just such an easy thing to do that people are just going to do it regardless. And the fact that they don't have to move anywhere to do it, they can do it from the comfort of their own
Do it
home.
on the toilet. They
Do
can
it, yeah,
do
whatever, which is probably
Yeah.
how most of it gets done.
Right. And I just think a toxic social media, because I guarantee you, if you walk up to that same person who made that comment, they are not going to bring that same energy
They're
if you
not
see them
bringing
in
that
the
same
street.
energy you see them in the
I
street.
guarantee
Nah,
it.
man.
99% of the time.
So it gives people a sense of saying, hey, I'm in power here. I can say whatever I want, and sometimes they say whatever they want.
See, that's a good word
And
there
it's
too.
dangerous.
I think that some things on social media there's a lot of people who feel powerless, and social media has given them this avenue to feel like they have power, and it's been used in many different and dangerous ways. And so you see this where people are just attacking, like you said, other artists, athletes,
Or even just writers. Like
Writer,
if a
yeah.
writer,
It's
Well,
like,
I mean, that's how we got this dude in office. Was that right there?
mean,
what
yeah.
you said about social
Yeah,
media
but
and people feeling powerless.
and people have fed off of that, and I think sometimes
he fed off of that for his whole campaign.
Well,
That's
he
how
did.
he got in.
I just also think it's created this culture where there's not enough true conversations being
Right.
had,
Yeah.
and it's just people looking to attack because you're like, I can point out your flaw in this, I can
100%.
do this, I can, and
or judging
And it
based
makes
on
them
their
feel better.
opinions
Yeah.
or things they tweet or stuff they post on Instagram.
Right.
People are very, very, very judgmental, and it's like you don't know this person's story at all.
right, or you're not even taking time to what
They don't care to know either.
What I see lacking is critical thinking.
Mhm.
That's what I've seen come out of this sometimes, is like you're not even thinking critically about this. It's just about being on the attack and
Right.
reacting in the moment. And so while I think there are things that are absolutely dope about social media, at the same time I'm glad even for you, somebody who works in it, can say, hey, there's some stuff here that's like kind of toxic, and we need to look at this societally as we go forward.
I mean, even working at where I work now at FanDuel, we handle a lot of gambling and stuff and money stuff, and if something bad happens, we'll get it in their mentions all the time. This guy didn't do this, or this guy got benched, I want my money. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's people will go off, and I understand it's their money, I get it, but it's just a lot of social media can be different, can be a way for some people to feel like they're in control when they've never really been in control of a scenario in their life. And especially with kids, it's I have younger cousins and stuff, and I see them literally on their phone on Instagram just, commenting a picture. They're not being mean, but they're, putting heart eyes under Drake's picture or whatever, and they're like, I'm talking to Drake. That's what their mindset is.
No,
though,
you're
you know what I
not.
mean? But they're 12 and 13. They don't know.
I don't want to have kids, man.
You know what I mean? They don't know better. They think they're talking to Drake, and Drake's going to see that comment. You know what I'm
I
saying?
mean, he might slide in the
Yeah.
DMs.
Well, just
they're 12 and
13. I don't know
13,
about
so
that.
that would be
Well,
bad. That would be bad. That would be
And another
horrible
thing
choice.
on top of social media, the recent Twitter rumor of him, like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Brian, like him
I posted
dating
it.
who's Jimmy Jam?
Bella Harris. You're talking about Bella Harris, the
Who's-
18-year-old?
Yeah,
that was 16.
She's
Doing a
a
quick
daughter
Google-
of
doing a quick
somebody.
Google search right now.
I think it's
man.
Jimmy Jam. I think she's the daughter
Maybe
of Jimmy Jam.
check, but they were messing around at 16, or they were
Well,
taking
no,
pictures
well,
together
at 16 he was taking pictures with her. Yeah,
Well,
and
come on, you take pictures like that. Come on, man.
yeah, and now
What
she
kind of
turned
pictures?
18.
He has
just,
bars.
hugging up,
Wow.
whatever.
He has suspect bars too. If you listen.
And then people want to go ahead and Drake's, for example. I'm a huge Drake fan. Like
Yeah.
I love Drake's music. I've been a fan
Interesting.
since like 07.
He
like
said Drake's music.
comeback
Just
season.
wanna clarify.
Yeah, I've been a big Drake fan since like 07. And like people on social media want to go ahead and make a video, for example, kind of just saying, oh, he likes younger girls because he's hugging up on her and he's friends with Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And he
Right.
and she texts him for advice, but people are taking like quotes out of context and saying like, "Oh, he texts me at night," and then cutting off like that. So social media can be, in a sense, it's great. You know what I mean? That I connected with Brian on there, for example. I connected with a lot of people. I mean, there's a time, Hard Knocks, I'd shared clips from that, and I had people from HBO follow me and say, hey, thanks. You know what I mean? Like promotion for
That's
that
dope.
stuff.
That's interesting.
That's dope.
too,
They
because-
acknowledge it too.
Yeah, I would think that especially with somebody like HBO, that they would be like, "Oh, can you take that down? You're
Right.
stealing."
Which
'Cause
I would-
You
which-
ran into that.
Oh, yeah,
before,
I've
though,
been
'cause I
suspended.
remember-
I've been suspended on Twitter.
I remember.
so many times.
I kind of wanted you to talk about this because I remember specifically because we were talking about this before when Def Pen, you posted a clip from, I don't remember what it was, but it was a clip that was going around. You guys had it. Bleacher Report got it. Probably Fox Sports 1's Twitter account got
Right.
it. And then you guys were suspended and nobody else was.
Right.
And you were sort of using that as a platform to, I guess, fight for independent media in that sense, which
Right.
we all obviously relate to because we're all pretty much independent media.
Right.
Dexter still is, even though he's with AccuWeather. And then, so, like,
I will always still be independent media.
that's what I'm saying. Well, you own Backpack Broadcasting.
That's right.
So there you
That's-
go.
I just want people to know that.
Yeah.
Just in case there's anybody who had questions.
The
case you had a
cockiest
doubt.
that I've heard him in 45 episodes of doing this.
That's cocky by me saying I'm always independent media?
No, it's
Okay.
not, but I'm
Okay.
just calling
I'm
you
just
that.
saying. Okay.
But yeah, but you were using
I remember what clip it is. It was from LeBron's original shop, the shop. This was last year. When he first did the shop last year, it wasn't on HBO at the time. It was like from the 2016 All-Star game, I think, when they were in New Orleans. It was like him, Draymond Green, blah, 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 Maverick Carter. There was a clip. He said something. I forget what he said, and I posted it just on our Hoops Twitter account. And in like, I guess within like 12 hours, it got a couple thousand retweets and likes and shares and stuff. And we got it removed and we got suspended for sharing multiple clips and we were down. I mean, like for independent media like us, that's a blow. That's huge for us. That's like stopping like
You
me
had a whole
making
thread
money.
for them. You had a whole thread for them. I remember that.
Yeah, it's dumb because I understand in the sense where like, okay, you working with Fox Sports, you're working with Bleacher, you're working with ESPN, whatever, and they can share the clip. I get that. But in the same sense, there's a person who works for these companies that goes out of their way to find these clips that are copyright clips and put a strike on it, on a Twitter strike through it. And for us, as an independent media site who we're not verified, we don't have a huge following, we're kind of doing it on our own through our own network. That's a big blow. We were suspended for a week.
Yeah, and they
You know
don't
what I
think
mean?
they don't think of it that way.
No,
You
because
know
they
what I-
think at their bottom line. It's at the end of the day, it's their bottom line. And as a platform, Twitter wants to make sure like, hey, we don't want copyright, content to come out. But if you flip it to Instagram and Facebook, because Facebook owns Instagram, whenever you upload a copyrighted music clip, for example, like the Mavericks made something with Dirk and a Kanye West song a couple years ago.
Bad choice.
Well, this was pre-MAGA Kanye.
Still
And
bad choice.
Naomi Gray, one of our previous guests, would strongly disagree.
So they
care.
did a
She's in
clip.
Minnesota now.
They did a clip with Dirk, and we went to share it on Instagram. And basically, as soon as we uploaded it, we got flagged for copyright because they have like a scanner thing that like there's this weird technology where it scans clips to hear for copyrighted
Right.
music.
Yeah.
Right.
And Instagram and Facebook does this thing where, and I think I just ran into this last week with Tiger Woods when he was winning that tournament or that whatever he was winning. I tried to upload a PGA Tour clip and they blocked it, but they said, hey, they gave a warning and said, this might be a copyrighted item. We're giving you the option to delete it. before you upload it.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
We need
That's
more.
fair.
We need
Yeah,
more
yeah.
of that kind
And
of
I
thing.
think,
this way you
honestly,
know.
if I got a DM
Yeah.
from somebody from, I guess, Uninterrupted or Spring Hill Entertainment that said, hey, can you take this down? Sure. I'll delete
so
it in a minute.
you're going to respect the other people's copyright.
Right. Because at the end of the day, for me, we're a news outlet. Independent, but we're a news outlet, and people want to see that stuff and that content, and people want to see it, and they don't want to. Half the time, people don't want to click on a link to watch a video. They want to see it right there on their timeline.
Right.
So if it's something that's good, and it's LeBron James, I mean, anything this guy sneezes the wrong way, people are gonna take it out of context. So like for me, I was just like, at the time, I was just like, hey, I'm gonna post it. Because I mean, this is the topic people are going to talk about or are already talking about, and I want to provide full context to what's going on.
Has that experience made you hesitant to post other things you see?
Of course.
So now you're moving with a sort of trepidation about, hey, maybe I shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that.
We just this morning, that clip I was talking about earlier with the Dipset thing, we didn't post it on our Def Pen Hoops Twitter account because we have a bunch of strikes, and we didn't want to be like, all right, we're going to get a strike from the music. From the copyright people that are going to say, hey, last strike, you're out of here and suspend your account for 2 weeks now. So we posted in another account that doesn't have so many strikes. It's just, it's good. Like social media, I love it's the modern day newspaper, they say. It's taking over and it's how people are able to get the news and also communicate with each other. But at the same time, it can be like it can be a very toxic place, and it can also be detrimental to a lot of independent and smaller news outlets and even people. You remember the clip over the summer with the umpire talking to Terry Collins about Chase Utley's ejection from last year.
Yeah, that's one of my. I love that.
Yeah.
MLB went out of their way to suspend the dude who shared the clip.
I remember
suspended his account, deleted the video, and scrubbed the video from every ESPN, Bleacher. Nobody has it.
Yeah.
I saved it on my computer, but you can't find it anywhere.
Nice.
And that's just a big entity saying, hey, stop this, even though what the umpire did wasn't bad.
And it doesn't surprise you that it's baseball.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Another sport
yes.
It will always
the
come
Stone
back
Ages,
to that for me.
The sport in the Stone Age, in terms of social media, they're starting to learn to do it now. Even the NFL with the check down, they're starting to understand, all right, we need to be a part of this social media culture, because the NBA got it immediately
Quickly,
right away.
and was on it. Yep.
As soon as any social media stuff, the NBA doesn't have rules for their content.
You can put highlights. You can post clips.
You can
That's
post. I know
part of-
people
They were
who do
on
the
it.
film
Yep.
schools, who do like the little Lakers
Yeah.
film room,
Knicks
and
Film School,
Knicks
which are
Film
tremendous.
School. I
Right.
love that. People do breakdowns. People do even like funny meme videos, like all that stuff, because the NBA, at the end of the day, that's promotion for them.
And they were
it's so
smart about that, because you think about how that allows someone like Zach Lowe to do his job, or it allowed independent sites, like you mentioned, like the Knicks Film School, to come up and do that, which I love, and these guys are breaking it down.
Right.
It's like they should be able to break down these clips. They're not
free advertising.
They're not putting out, but the NBA has got a lot of things ahead of the curve.
Right.
Baseball, I've been surprised at, because they were kind of the first major league here in the States that got it with video. And I used to work at MLB.com back in 2006, 2007. They were like kind of the leader in putting video out there and then getting it onto mobile platforms, but they totally missed the mark when it came to pushing that on social media. And so
The NFL was like that too. I
yeah,
remember.
because they wouldn't allow you to put clips. You couldn't put highlights.
No,
on the
but
NFL.
I remember even now, if you do a specific thing on Twitter, you can copy a link to a video and paste it, and it'll be embedded, an embedded video that you can tweet out. The NFL, like 2 years ago, I remember they suspended our sports Twitter account because we were posting highlights.
Oh, y'all got a lot of strikes and
Oh
suspensions.
man, it was.
They're coming for y'all.
I mean, we're doing all we can to clean it up. It's a
Yeah.
process for sure. But I mean, I'm not ashamed. Like I said,
No risk,
try
no
and
reward.
fail. I mean, like, yeah, you got to try it. I mean, some of the stuff hits and it does very well.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff works, and then we kind of get stuffed at the rim, so to speak. So I mean, it's good and bad, and I'm glad to see the NFL and MLB, catching up to the NBA in the sense of like, hey, you got to do stuff on social. If you don't, you're gonna be left behind because everybody's pushing forward. That's why there's an NBA Twitter. You know what I mean? That's why this is a big thing that Twitter Sports is getting behind NBA Twitter, not NFL Twitter. They're not getting behind MLB Twitter. Definitely
NFL
not hockey
Twitter's
Twitter.
racist.
Well, yeah, we can, yeah. But
No, you're right.
it's the reason why Twitter's saying, hey, this is a good thing. We should keep doing it. So I think social media, to encapsulate this all, social media has good and bad, And, I think people should start doing more good, but of course there's always going to be bad.
This is a good conversation that we're having around social media and sports. I know Brian's wanted to have this one for a long time. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk with Rob a little bit more about working as an independent media outlet. Some of the struggles,
we can relate.
Some of the struggles with corporate media and things that we don't like that we see in social media, maybe for some other journalists and companies. We're going to talk about that, and we're all Mets fans here, so we're going to talk about the end of the 28th season for the New York Mets. Yes, a sigh, which is what we do every year when it comes to the New York Mets. We sigh like that. We'll talk a little about
Dominic
that.
Smith got a home run the other day.
And the end of David Wright's career. I'm going to ignore that. We'll talk more about that when we come back on the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. Backpack Broadcasting continues to bring you the best original sports content, but now you can get more of the content you love. For as little as $3 a month, you can get access to bonus content, including behind-the-scenes footage and interviews from the Sports Walk, Sideline Stories, or the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. All this exclusive content comes via Patreon. There are tiered levels of patronage, and each Backpack Broadcasting patron receives exclusive perks. Your support helps Backpack Broadcasting create more of the original content that you love. Visit Backpack Broadcasting's Patreon page and become a patron today. Welcome back to the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast, episode 45, and we have not yet to pick an athlete's number for this episode. If you don't know Rob, now you know. This is what we do.
Yeah.
Every episode, we pick a number of an athlete we like that we think fits the episode. And it gets to be quite interesting because Brian thinks he knows it all. So he thinks he knows the fact of who I'm going to pick before we actually pick it. And he's wrong. He doesn't know anything.
It's a little segment we do, a game we play. We started doing it at episode 30. What we're going to do is when we get to 100, we're going to go like whoever's like 00. Also, 100 will probably be Gilbert Arenas or something like that.
You should just do Will.
Yeah, that would be dope for 100. That's actually a good thing.
Okay.
He should have 100. You're kind of right about that.
We'll keep that in mind.
That's that's actually a good
while
thing.
From now.
Or I could just mess with Brian's world and just retire from the podcast.
I retire at 99.
Yeah.
In the middle of recording 100, just leave.
Be like, yo, I'm done. I'll pull a Vontae Davis. Be like, yo, I'm out of
wow. So
sorry, Matt. Our engineer Matt is a Bills fan, so that probably wasn't great. I just realized that he probably is not quitting on the team is not the thing he wanted to hear about.
Damn, that sucks. Vontae Davis was a good corner too.
Yo, but he really just pieced out.
Yeah, I mean,
caught an Uber. Like the story was like he just caught an Uber and just left.
Yeah,
we're gonna come back to that.
Yeah,
I have thoughts about that.
It's like I said on one of the recent podcasts we had. Quitting is underrated. But anyway, so number 45, we got Sean Bradley again. He's back. Sean Bradley with the Nets.
Hell no.
You miss me, Sean Bradley.
Some of these I just put in to obviously mess with Dexter. You could tell which ones it was. AC Green.
Okay.
Rick Smits.
No.
You miss me, Rick Smits.
Former NEC player of the year, I think.
He underrated guy on the Pacers, I will say, in that run. He was underrated big man. He didn't have a problem guarding Shaq.
He was.
I'll say that.
Great battles with Patrick Ewing.
What was the Game Boy game? Was it NBA in the Zone? What was the Game Boy game that had
Brian referring to his age
Hold
again.
on.
Mark's on the cover?
Marcus Camby was on the cover.
Oh, I don't
Rick
know.
Smits was really good in that game.
NBA
Marcus
Inside
Camby.
Drive. NBA Inside Drive?
That's what it was called?
Marcus Camby was on the cover?
I don't know. Was it? No. It was not Vince Carter. What are you talking about? I'm talking about a Game Boy game. No. Marcus Camby video game.
I played all my NBA games on the PlayStation.
Cover.
As you
I'm
should.
talking about 1999
playing
or whatever.
a basketball game on a handheld? I couldn't even imagine
Rick
that.
Smits was nice.
No, it was in the zone. Marcus Camby
That's what
was
I'm saying.
in the zone.
Rick Smits was so good in that game. Whatever.
And this actually, Rob, this was on PlayStation. I look at the cover of right here.
It's an old PlayStation. I had it on Game Boy
Konami-
Color. What are y'all laughing at?
Yeah.
Huh? What you said? Yo, you're surprised that I'm not a pothead, right? Like the fun that I would be having if I smoked. Yo, you have no.
He knows.
Whatever.
He knows exactly what year he had this game, and you probably know where that game
This
is.
is why we got
Must be
something.
nice.
This is why we got something else coming soon. But I'm gonna leave it at that.
Anyway,
Anyway, Bob
that-
Gibson.
He had
All
a
right.
nice home run.
Pedro Martinez,
Okay, so now we're in my wheelhouse.
John Franco,
Again, in my wheelhouse.
Brooklyn.
Tug McGraw,
No.
Old.
Donovan Mitchell.
Okay,
I-
that's the homie. He's nice. I met him before. He's a really nice dude.
I feel like Matt's
He's a Met fan, too.
Matt's
I
not.
know. His dad works in the Mets.
Yeah, that's right.
Matt Finese is not here, so he can't force us to put Donovan Mitchell. But I know he's gonna be upset if we don't put Donovan Mitchell, and he might put it. He might rebel and put it in himself. So that might happen. I'm just letting you know. And Michael Jordan, 45.
The
Can't
comeback.
we can't do Mike because this is my first time, so you can't do Mike.
Okay.
I don't think we can do Mike.
I think
Yeah,
you're.
nah, Mike
I
is
think.
reserved for somebody coming back.
I think you're
Yeah.
both.
Shouts to Mike. You know, not my goat.
My guy.
I
my
think
guy,
you're going
there's-
Pedro.
Yeah, that's my guy. on
You're
the
both
list.
going Pedro.
I'll go
I'm a Pedro
Pedro.
guy.
All right.
I mean, I love
We all
Franco,
agree.
but Billy
But-
Wagner kind of stole his shine a little bit as the Mets closer. But
I'm a Pedro guy.
I
I'm
love
always a
Pedro.
guy. I love Pedro. I love
I
Pedro.
love what he did to Don Zimmer's head.
Yes.
Yo, see, we were just
Great.
talking. So we were just talking about this
Great
like
times.
2 podcasts ago. I'm like, that's one of my favorite baseball moments.
I mean,
That's
just
one of my favorite baseball
the
moments.
Because
I
it
remember
involved violence.
watching that
We can
live.
get into the Mets right now
I
after
remember
this.
watching that live when he just went whoop and just tossed his head down.
I was like,
It was great.
oh,
Yo,
shit,
I
let's do
was-
that old man down.
I'm not gonna say my age because Dexter hates when I do that.
Yes.
But I remember I was laughing very, very hard even at that age.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
watching
because
that.
you laugh hard at this age.
Yeah, let's go with Pedro. I like the Pedro.
So you're fine with Pedro.
I mean, he's
But
Dominican.
Wait,
I'm not Dominican.
So we're going Boston, Pedro.
No, Matt's Pedro.
Nah, gotta be Boston Pedro, man.
All right, fine.
Dominant
Boston Pedro was
But if
dominant.
you put Mets,
He's the one that threw Don Zimmer.
But yeah, Boston Pedro was dominant.
yeah, Boston Pedro was so good.
That was
man.
that's.
Though,
where he
although
really
Mets
got-
Pedro, he came
was
in
good.
05
No, he
and
was
helped
solid.
that turnaround. that the Mets
Yeah,
had
He was
in
solid.
He was
06.
good for
He was
the first
solid.
couple years. Yeah,
I almost bought his
All right,
jersey.
so we're
Go
going. We're
Boston.
going with Pedro.
Boston
Going
Pedro.
with
Donovan
Pedro.
Mitchell would have been my second choice, actually.
Mine
I'll
would have
say
been
that.
45, Michael.
Okay, no, I'm not with him on that.
And,
Nah, I'm good.
I would have vetoed that one.
Yeah, would have done that.
We'll go Pedro.
All right, so we're going with Pedro.
Speaking of the Mets, though, David Wright retiring. You tweeted out something recently, Rob. You tweeted out something that you're gonna be. What was your reaction? That you were gonna be sad about this?
Oh yeah, I mean, for me, growing up,
really, Dex?
but
really?
like for me though, like when I was growing up, like I'm 15 in 06, you know what I mean, 14 and 05, you know what I'm saying. So like I grew up with Wright and Reyes. That was my infield. My dad is a huge Mets fan. My dad, he's the one who instilled the sports in me from when I was born. The first thing he put on me was a Giants onesie. As soon as I
Well, at least he put some winning on you. You weren't getting with the
he
Mets.
he put the Giants onesie on me as the story goes. And yeah, I mean he's the one who instilled like the sports in me, and I've always, like I said earlier with the story about Stuart Scott, he was the one I would do the sports centers for.
Sorry, shaking my head because I realized
Brian.
I did the opposite of your dad, and I put a Jets onesie on my daughter.
And the Knicks one.
Yeah, that probably makes me a horrible parent. So
The Knicks one not as bad.
Simone's gonna be so pissed when she's 12.
she might be pissed now.
He might be pissed off right now.
So any
Daddy, Kristaps tore his ACL.
why are you wishing negative things?
He did tear his
happened.
ACL.
You're saying, I thought you were saying like it's gonna happen again.
No.
Yeah,
I
I
hope
like-
not. I hope not. He can be,
He's
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
Shortly after she wore that jersey, that's whatever. We're not gonna go into that.
Oh, so you're you jinx.
I'm not the reason.
You jerk.
Anyway, the Mets.
The Mets. I love the Mets. 06, I was there in 2015 when they went to the, I was there the last game of 2015. I was there for the first wild card game 2015. I was going to go to the World Series game if they got that far. But they got, the Royals handled them earlier than that. But yeah, I mean, I've been a big Mets fan. The last couple of years, I kind of fell off. My brother's a way bigger Mets fan than me. Like, he knows the dudes in the farm system. He knows all the bench coaches, and I'm just like, cool, yeah, I know McNeil's good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, John Smith's really good. Just because a lot of the guys are transition guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the same Mets I knew from even 2015 or even before in 06. There's not a lot of household names, so to speak. I know, Reyes is still there, right? The Wright retirement for me though is like, it's sad in the sense that like he's not going on his own terms. He's going because his back or whatever, his hip is all
Spinal
types of messed
stenosis,
up.
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. It sucks. And like, I guess the doctor said he can only play like 2 more games. Like, if he plays any more, he's probably going to be like paralyzed, which is like crazy to me that like you can do something you love to the point where, and Steve Nash, I think, also had something similar to in his back. Where you can't do it. Like Steve Nash says, he can't play basketball anymore because it hurts, even to dribble like up and down the court.
That sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it just sucks to see. I mean, and he's only like 36, right?
Steve Nash?
No,
David
David Wright.
David Wright, yeah.
Yeah, David
think
Wright.
he's
He was born in
36.
82.
He's a year older than me. He's 36.
82 December. He's gonna be 36 in December, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
I remember that because Jose Reyes is 83.
he hasn't played in 3 years, right? Since like
Roughly.
2015.
Because I actually pulled a U, and when that got announced, I actually tweeted out a clip that I cut from the World Series when he played on behalf of the Mets against the Royals, and he had the big game with, I think it was 4 RBIs.
The one for me that I will always remember is that game against the Nationals when he hit the home run to clinch the NL East in 2015. Or I think it was the NL East. It was a game against the Nationals. He hit a home run.
Yeah,
I think it was
they
in
won the division
Washington.
that year, so I think you're right.
And he was rounding the bases and he like pumped his fist. Oh my God, that moment, like I'm getting chills right now. Like that moment is like the David Wright moment because he didn't have anything in 06. And he was really good from like 07, 8, 9. He was an all-star.
Yeah.
He was MVP candidate.
Those
He
were
was
his
very
prime
good.
years. Yeah.
And then, in 2015, he started getting the injury. And then that game against the Nationals, that was just like, oh, perfect. Perfect. It was just a perfect, like, kind of cherry on top of his career.
I think what's hard for me is like I'm sad to see him go, but he's been gone kind of in my mind already. Like the last couple of years, I looked at the team and I was like, oh well, he's not here. I wasn't counting him, expecting him to be back. I think it's lovely what the Mets are doing for him and bringing him back, and he's going to get a Cup final at bat. He's going to get to play a little bit in the field.
Bring him to the front office too. I think as a scout or something.
I'm going to watch.
Oh,
I'm going
I
to
didn't
watch.
know that, actually.
I'm going to watch some
I
of
didn't
them.
hear that
I think
detail.
he said he wants to do it, or
I would like to
something.
see that.
I think
Let's
it's good.
talk about it. I don't know if he'll be good at it, but I would like to see it.
Or I think he'd be
He's
good in
smart.
some kind of player
Yeah.
development
Yeah,
too,
he's
just
good.
being around the young guys.
Well, I mean, a lot of the guys now, he comes around the clubhouse and hangs out with the guys, and a lot of the young guys say that he's very influential in talking to some of the younger guys, like Dom. He's there and he's working with them. I think. Oh my God, what's his name? Flores.
Rosario?
Well, Rosario too, but Flores said that David Wright helped him a lot when he first started coming in, especially through that trade, fiasco. He
Fellow
said David,
third baseman too.
Yeah, he said David Wright was, helping him a lot, texting him, messaging him, calling him, saying, "Hey man, it's gonna be all right. If you do get traded, you get traded. You didn't get traded, so let's keep going, keep pushing." I think like you said, Dex, it's him in a player development type of, maybe scout, maybe even doing something to the minor league team. I think would be good. Just because, I mean, like he's gonna go down as one of the great, if not the greatest. I mean, behind Piazza, I would say, in my opinion, and Seaver, third greatest Met of all time.
Probably.
I mean,
yeah, I mean, in terms of position players, I mean, Piazza's the best in terms of position players.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about Piazza is the Mets they only had him for like 9 years.
Something like it was 90, 97?
98.
98. 98
Yeah,
until
and
05, I think it was.
Yeah.
So that's 8.
He wasn't there in 06.
Yeah.
Because he was on the Athletics.
But that's and I was gonna make this point too, is that David Wright is also the rare current sort of star that stayed with
the
one
same
team.
And I thought it was
for a
going to be
long period of
Pujols.
time.
I thought that was going to be Pujols.
me
And
too.
when he went to the Angels, I was like, wow.
It's just sad that David Wright didn't have, as many productive seasons for him towards the end.
But,
They're still playing now.
but Jose Reyes too, I wish that he would, if this is it for
Those
him.
guys never should have left. I mean, well, not he didn't leave, and Wright
Well,
didn't leave,
yeah,
but
but
they didn't get to stay together.
I wish he didn't leave, but I wish he also didn't end on these terms where he's kind of, and this is how a lot of guys.
He's a
age.
mascot. Reyes is really a mascot.
Yeah,
at
a
this
lot
point
of
for the
guys
Mets.
age, and it's like you're playing poorly on your way out.
Right.
Granted, he's not as bad now as he was early in the season where.
People were saying he was going to get cut.
Yeah,
he was really
but
bad.
the Mets didn't want to do that. They wanted him to go out, I guess, in a better light. But I do wish those two, because I remember how exciting that was. I
remember when they both came up. Yeah,
I still have
Beautiful.
have this poster in my room.
Of course you do.
No, for real.
Of
I
course.
still have this poster in my room. It's like a Mets sort of historical poster that starts in 1962, and it kind of details some of their important years, and it ends in 2004. So I put this up when I was younger, and in 2004, you see a picture of Wright and Reyes together from spring training.
Yeah, the future.
And yeah, they're labeled the future, whatever. And a lot of times, especially in New York sports, you're cynical. when you hear this person's going to be the future, Sam Darnold's going to be the future, Geno Smith's going to be the future, Mark Sanchez is going to be the future.
Kevin Knox,
You know what I mean?
on
Like,
and
you
on.
hear this all the time, and you're like, oh, this is nonsense or whatever. But they really, like, almost right away, because in 05, you saw some hope.
Right.
Came
They
up
were
that-
very
yeah.
good. And then in 06, boom, NLCS. And then you thought it was going to be better from there. But then 07, 08, they had the collapse years. And then from 09 on, it was just bad. But I was glad that David Wright at least had to have that moment in 2015. So I guess that's the moment that's going to stick with me in the World Series, where he had that big performance. And it was the only game they won in that World Series. You know, and the next year they were good too. He just wasn't as much of a part of that because he didn't really get to play much.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's tough to see him go. It's tough to see guys like Reyes and him out. You know, it makes me. I remember when they both came up in end of 04 and just watching that and seeing both these guys. But Wright will be missed. I just hope he, like you said, Rob. I hope he's still around the team and able to, impact them in some way going forward. But it'll be interesting to see. And the reception on social media, I'm sure is going to be in his last game is going to be fantastic and great, and there's going to be a lot posted about that.
The crazy thing about that, and we can get out of David Wright after this, but the crazy thing about that is the day it was rumblings. Anthony DeComo.
DeComo, yeah.
I guess he works for MLB.com. He's the Mets beat writer.
Yes.
He was tweeting the David Wright press conference because at the time we didn't know like if this was his retirement press conference or if he was saying, "Hey, I'm going to play the last month" or whatever. When DeComo said that he's playing this weekend, like this final weekend, I looked at tickets online and there were $9. I texted my dad, I texted my brother, I said, "Hey, do you want to go to the game? Do you want to go?" They're like, I don't know. I was like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's wait a day. I checked an hour later, those same $9 tickets were $109.
Yeah.
And boom, like that's crazy.
Yeah, people are going to want to see this. Before we get out of here, I want to talk a little bit, bring it back to social media as we just
Sure.
One of the things that Brian and I we see a lot in social media, and we've seen this across time. And Brian's smiling already. And no, folks, people who can't watch this, we are not about to talk about Freddie Gibbs. That is not going to happen.
That's not why.
But
although he did announce an album coming out.
Here we go. There is a lot of, how do I say it? There's a lot of
Fake news.
fake news. A lot of phonies out there in terms of the social media game. A lot of people reporting things, or sometimes reporting things and tweeting things, and then saying that they're actually not reporting news at all.
Right.
How do you, as somebody who watches social media, produces content for social media, how do you feel about that in the game? Like, there's a lot of people out there just looking for likes and retweets, and we see that, and it's just like, what's going on? And why aren't people calling this out?
Well, one, people aren't calling it out because a lot of people are afraid. Depending on the situation, whether it's, a potential future work partnership or even, a potential, I guess, for them not wanting to get into a situation, so to speak, to where they don't have a leg to stand on. For me, and I did it just this summer, like where there's people like making up stuff or doing a fake Woj account or doing a fake, Chris Haynes account, whatever. And, I've talked to Chris Haynes before about this, and he hates it. Like, people just using, because they're disparaging his name. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're using his picture, even if it is fake.
Because he's a real reporter.
Right, exactly. And somebody just did this yesterday. There was a thing about Iman Shumpert wasn't at practice, and a bunch of the little Kings fans were saying that Harry Giles was saying that Iman Shumpert wasn't at practice, but Iman was really on the sidelines, and they were like saying that it was according to Jason Jones, who's a really good reporter. Mm-hmm. And they were saying, and Jason was upset. Jason was on Twitter, was like, I didn't say this. Like, you can't say this, because then 150 people will retweet that and they'll run with it as gospel because they saw it on Twitter. That's the thing I always tell people, especially my friends, I grew up with in high school or college, whatever. People see stuff on social media and they'll take it as gospel, and they'll be like, oh, I saw this on Instagram, must be true. I saw this on this thing, must be true. And I'm just like, you guys have to vet everything and make sure, and also like, see where it's coming from. It's coming from Woj, 99% chance it's good, it's true, outside of the one, occasion where somebody's like, oh, that's not true, but it's really true. He's just saying it's not true.
Yeah.
And then it also relates to podcasts in the sense where a lot of podcasts now, especially with the newsbreakers, whether it's Woj or Lowe, Zach Lowe, or even Kevin O'Connor with The Ringer, they'll include these sourced things in their podcast to try to get stuff out, and people will transcribe it on social, and they'll spell a word or they'll put a different word, and it'll make the whole tweet mean something completely different.
Yep.
And it's just like, damn, man, you really messed that up like that. So
that's not even what they said.
Yeah, it's social as far as like it's the whole, I hate that whole like for like culture, or like sharing stuff just to get a retweet, or I mean, for me personally, on my and I work in a social space, you know, I work with people who are heavy into social media, you know, for the Count the Dings podcast, you know, Zach Harper, he's one of the bigger NBA Twitter guys out there, and he's always tweeting because, you know, that's his brand, that's what he does, he interacts with people. But for me personally, I don't, if I'm tweeting, that means I'm either A, on the train, on the bus, or in a car, bored, or B, I have nothing better to do, because I don't
I was going to say on the toilet.
Or on the toilet, whatever. Like I don't find a need for me personally to go out there and like get into a whole argument with somebody about something that has nothing to do with anything. Like, I like this album, but you don't like this. It's just dumb.
I agree.
So for me,
and there's not enough nuance you can give in a certain amount of character. We were just talking to Howard back about this.
Yeah, and you know, I won't belabor the point anymore. But as far as like, you know, sharing the fake news and stuff, and I hate to use the term fake news because 45 is the one that kind of coined it, and it's kind of, you know, detrimental to places like the New York Times or like the Washington Post, who are actually doing really good work.
Journalism,
it's kind of, you know, me being a pure capital J journalist, I guess, you know, going through school and all that stuff. All that fake news and all the stuff that people are kind of trying to say, hey, this is what my sources are saying, and then come to find out a couple months later it's not accurate. It's kind of just, you know, people, you know, they won't go back to check it. I will. I'll go back and I'll tally it out.
There's no accountability. Brian feels very strongly about
no
this.
accountability, and people are just doing it just to get the clout out there. And people like you and me are going to notice that, but obviously, you know, there's certain battles that you're not going to pick at a certain stage to avoid, you know, a certain level of, I don't know.
And also, like, I just don't care. So 9 times out of 10, I'm just like, I don't care.
I
mean, people.
Well, I was going to say,
I don't care to get in a fight in terms of, like, I don't care to get in an argument with this person because you're wasting my time. I could be doing a whole bunch of better stuff than arguing with you all day.
Yeah. And also, that's probably not in your character to just take someone down just for the sake of it. However,
no, if they're
a lot of people that are trolls, they just kind of retweet this stuff. And they don't think two seconds about it, and then after a few days or whatever, they're not turning back like, hey, you said this was going to happen, why don't you whatever, like, correct it. And no, that's not going to happen. This is why certain people just keep doing it and just keep putting BS out there.
I agree. I think
it just helps them.
I think that's part of the reason it keeps happening.
Because you could get away with that now in the social media game, where facts, a lot of people say this, jokes are better than facts. I know you've heard that saying before too. And a lot of times now, especially, like, it is. It very much dilutes journalism, and it dilutes real reporting and real reporters that are actually trying to break things.
It also dilutes character for some people, especially athletes, and people will start making jokes and say things about Ben Simmons, for example, and they'll just make all these jokes and say, like, Ben Simmons is doing this, this, and this, and, like, you're degrading this guy's character, you know? Or D'Angelo Russell's a prime example of this. He made a mistake when he was 19. With Nick Young. He made a mistake. He posted a Snapchat video. Now everybody's forever labeling him as a snitch. Yeah. Or as a guy who records stuff. And like, that's, I don't know him personally enough to say, like, this is him, this is definitively him. But on Twitter, forever, even Instagram, I'll post a video of when I was at Nets Media Day the other day. I posted a video on Instagram. All I see, snitch under it. And it's like, dude, he's 23 now.
22.
First of all, I don't understand why you care.
And I see, that's another thing too.
I don't understand that.
He made a mistake when he was 19.
Media,
people act like they never made mistakes before.
Yeah, and social media gives people this power where they feel like they can do those things and they can label other people as snitch because it makes them feel better. They can put out fake news because it makes them feel better. Right. And if you have a certain following and you have a certain reach, you're gonna feel like nobody could tell you anything. If you have maybe
it's all about
even
your network.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I there's no accountability. That's one of the things that bothers me. You know, you see these reporters putting out stuff and they're not even putting out news or, especially around trades and stuff right now.
Talking in circles.
We're talking
and
in
if you
circles.
look up,
And there's like I said, they'll keep bringing up this word, there's no accountability for it. You can't say, I read something the other day where somebody's like, hey, a deal's not done until it's official. Gee, thanks. We didn't know that.
I'm waiting for the press release.
Yeah,
just like you.
we all knew this. So you're not reporting anything.
Right.
But
It's not news.
And going back to reach, it's like, all right, followers obviously don't mean everything. And I feel like people lose sight of that because if you look up,
It's your quality, and I hate to cut you off, but quality of your followers. If you have, I'd rather have 2,000 good, strong followers than
Smart
20,000 just because my numbers look good.
agree with that.
Or you bought those.
I agree with that
Right.
because if you have a certain amount of followers, again, you feel like you're untouchable or whatever, but that doesn't mean you're smarter or better than somebody with 2,000 or whatever. If you look up whoever's a sports editor for the Washington Post, I forget his name. He has like 3,000 something followers.
Right.
If you look up, and I have more than that. If you look up famous authors and things like that,
editors
they have
for major publications don't they don't go on
1,000,
Twitter.
1,500. They don't even tweet that much, but they probably have more integrity than you, more money than you,
more clout in the
more
whole
clout,
sports.
And they actually have more
better at
influence,
what
right.
better at what they do. Dexter, you don't even have that many followers in your Twitter account. Are you less credible than somebody who has 20,000?
No, I'm not.
Because people see that you're out there covering Hurricane Florence in South Carolina. People know that you were out here covering high school and college basketball and NBA basketball for a long, and the NFL and everything else for a long period of time, and they know you're credible. It doesn't matter that you don't even have a certain amount of followers.
I think the point Rob makes, you can look at if for someone like me, you can look at the quality of the followers I have, or the quality of followers Backpack Broadcasting has, or whatever we've done. You can see the people who follow, the people who have messed with us, or that we connect with, whether it's someone like you, Rob, or other independent media artists. And that's what matters to me at the end. It's like who we're connecting with, you said, and who we're doing stuff with, or who I'm doing stuff with. I don't worry about the numbers. I never get too infatuated by the numbers at any point. Like, they're nice,
Yeah.
but I never let the numbers consume me, even in terms of views, likes. We talked about this on a podcast, a couple podcasts
with the
ago.
Joe Rogan thing.
Yeah,
that
we
were
talked about
talking
it. Joe Rogan had made a point, and I said it in this podcast. It's like, it's not necessarily about how many people are following you, watching you, but that your content gets to the right people that need to follow and watch you, that can eventually put you someplace else. So if somebody
quality over quantity.
if
for
somebody
me
watches
all
this
the time.
podcast and they've really been interested in social media, or listens to the podcast and says, hey, I like what Rob Lopez said. I never heard of him, but now I want to check his stuff out. Then that's dope. That's already a dope impact.
For sure.
It's not about the following. It's about the moment that we had here and the conversation we had here that's dope, that'll live on forever. And to me, that's all that matters.
No, yeah, quality over quantity every time.
Sadly,
quality.
that's a little bit lost. Well, you are a quality guy, man.
I appreciate it.
To tie that in, you're a quality guy. We appreciate the insight in social media. Somebody who's actually doing it, who's done it independently. You got to keep doing it and keep grinding. And
you too. You guys got to keep going too.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I have to.
Not easy.
I always say this, and I say this to you and every other person comes in here to sat with us that does independent media stuff. Independent media has to support each other.
Right.
Okay, it's very important for that.
Sure.
That we have to support each other.
Patreon.com/Backpack Broadcast.
Yeah.
We're all in this together,
We're
that's what I tell, and I'll talk about this for a little bit. I know we're running out of time, but with Count the Dings, Jade, shout out to Jade Hoy, used to produce for ESPN, and he was ESPN's podcast producer for True Hoop and all that stuff, and he left, and now he started his own company because he's independent. He's by himself. He's doing his own thing. He has his own Patreon page, and he's doing his own thing. And I was bugging him for weeks, months actually. I was like, Jade, let me help you. Jade, let me help you. Jade, let me help you, because I want to support that. I'm not asking him to pay me. I'm not asking him for anything besides let me help you do this. One, for me, I want to learn how to do it. I want to help work with these kind of people. And two, I want to support something that I know is really good. And I want to work with these people, and I want to work with Jade and learn from somebody who was at ESPN for almost a decade, I think. And learn under him and see what he has to offer. For me, as a person who's still learning, even though I'm about to be 27, I'm still learning every day, something new every day. So yeah, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, independent, even for us at Def Pen, we're working with independent artists, we're working with independent writers, all this type of stuff, just because, independent media, there's a different, I guess there's a different feel to it. You know what I mean? Like there's a different kind of vibe when you get something independent and you know this isn't a processed, run through the factory type deal. This is this guy
you care
really
about
worked
it
about
more.
it.
Yeah, you care about it more.
For
It's
sure.
more. It's more. It begins as a passion project, and not a lot of things. If you're gonna go in, I guess, the corporate route or whatever, there's anything wrong with that. But you're not gonna have as much passion behind it if somebody else is just paying you a certain amount of money and you got to sit at this desk for 8 hours or whatever it is that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, and I think that's always dope. Well, I think it's a good place to leave it, man. Thank you for coming up here. We
No problem.
really appreciate it. We hope we're gonna have you back.
I mean, if you guys let me know, Brian, this guy's
you can't come back no more.
Okay.
I'm messing with you. No, you're always welcome.
But yeah,
Awesome.
I have been looking forward to this one, so I'm glad we got it done.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I
man.
mean,
Brian told me about you. We're glad we got you to come up here and talk. So it was dope, man. We got it. Hopefully, the next time you're back, the Mets are a little bit better for all of us.
Well, do you have time until 2020 or?
Oh,
I don't know. I tell all the time, if something happens to me, I pass away, then put your money in the Mets at World Series. Then they'll, that's when they'll probably win.
Come on,
I'm telling you, that's when they're gonna win. All right, that's it for episode 45 of the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. Thank you to our guest Rob Lopez of Def Pen, Count the Dings, and he wears plenty of other hats, also working for FanDuel as a social media associate. This was the Pedro Martinez episode 45 of the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. Please be sure to give us a rating on all the platforms you can find us on. Also, support us on Patreon as well. Remember, as we said, support independent media. For Brian Fonseca and Rob Lopez, I'm Dexter Henry. Until next time, y'all. Peace.